Welcome back. Welcome back. We are getting into the fifth and final matchup of the day. Online, of course, we have had a few matches played offline. This final one shot, Nocturnes. Finally, some full on familiarity to round out the day. Cookies. This one shot team, they were impressive last year. And I think not just impressive, they surprised a lot of people with just coming out of the gate and being a strong team.
Yeah, it was definitely a pleasant surprise at stage 3. A lot of people, me included, there's a moment in time where I was skeptical, right? When they first announced all their big moves. And honestly, it might be the same this year. This is kind of a little bit of a different one shot, just a little bit. No quartz. In VK, Nathan Valenti King, and no storms, by the way, either. He's being speech impediment by Subarctic. Subarctic, yes, Subarctic from IF. He has come here. NBK from XSET has come here. And this is what One Shot wants. This is their long-term roster as they describe it. Well, let's see how they perform in comparison to last year's team.
I've got to say this, for better or worse, I wasn't too familiar with the rosters when that came up there. Whew, that's an impressive roster. Connor, can Nocturnes top that? Because on paper, that's scary.
Yeah, that is a scary roster, but I do like what Nocturnes have done. Even though every single stage they make 2 roster moves, I like what they've been doing here, especially with all the work that they put in the offseason. Poison and Slothy, they came in with their most recent pickup right before the Challenger League start, is Nyx, Nightmare Nyx, the scary man coming out of Mirage. Kind of little trade going on with Marmalade departing this roster and ending up on that organization in the NAL. Still, overall, should be a really good team because the main issue with Nocturnes has always been their IGL woes. It's always been who's going to be IGLing. They're trying to learn IGLing as they're playing at such a high level. And all of a sudden you have Nyx and you have Poison, 2 pedigreed IGLs that know what they're doing to a certain extent, which should be nice. However, they lost Sykes. That can be a big hit.
Well, having a former pro on your team or in your pocket, Cookies, now all of a sudden not the advantage one shot might have had against other teams. What would their advantages be? What are your thoughts on the team?
Well, man, I gotta say, Connor, I actually want to take this toss and give it to you because you read this critical point.
Yeah, I was saying that when you look at, you got Kilo and Swaylin. I think that you can definitively say that is the best supporting duo in all of Challenger League. And I don't think that's a very hot take. I think that's lukewarm at best. That's just the norm. I don't think anybody should be arguing with that one. That's just a statement, and it's a fact. That's Swaylin.
So it's
Kilo
true.
Are pretty good.
It's
pretty
true
good.
then.
So it's absolutely true. But as you rotate to the latter half of the rounds over towards those execute phases, having those 2 players alive and in your corner should help them out a lot. But when you're talking about the early round, we don't know which Subarctic we're going to get. The old Okami Subarctic was one of the highest rated players in all of Challenger League and was absolutely terrifying and like plus 30 in a stage. The Investigation File Subarctic had the lowest engagement rate upon all entries and won the baiting award last stage.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, this means now that Cookies takes care of Nocturnes, or are you just going to push all your homework? You're just going to push all your homework to CDAPs today. Okay. Finally.
I just didn't want to do the first question. I'll do the second one. And yeah, I mean, yes, we talked a bit about it earlier. Nyx and Poison. That dynamic is interesting because you've got two Giga Chads in terms of IGLing. And from what I asked, I interviewed some Nocturnes representatives, and they said that they work well together. It's not like, you've got Poison saying, I want to go here. And Nyx is like, no, idiot, I'm going here. If that happens, they're going to have problems. But from what they said, that's not. They actually work well together. It's not any personality clashing. And I think also last year we talked a whole lot about how it was freaking Mo and it was Sykes who's going to fill their shoes. And I think, they've got a strong core. Those French Canadian dudes still there. Lackey, Exotic, they're still there. Mm-hmm. And they're solid players. And now you've got the right IGLing. I think this is going to be a solid team. It's not going to be a single carrying fragging void that will need to be filled. I think it's just going to be, this is going to be a solid team now. That's always what they've relied on. That's always what they've ride and died on.
Well, with so much tenured experience on both teams, Cookies, surely surely these teams can feel comfortable playing on a map that is not Clubhouse or not Oregon, right? Clubhouse, gone. Come on.
Good start. Nocturnes banning out that club. One shot's club. That's one thing. Since this one shot's mostly the same team from last year, we did remember, their club was rather good, right? Skyscraper insta ban. I guess nobody wants to play Skyscraper. It's fine. We don't like enjoying new maps, I guess. Not on this stream. Oregon and border. Thank God. Like you said, no Oregon. We don't have to suffer through that one again. Villa being banned by one shot. Actually kind of curious. That's one of, slap me and call me Sally if I'm wrong, BDAPS. I want to say Villa was at least somewhat decent for one shot, but maybe over the course of the quals and as I guess the winter kind of went through, maybe they played it a little too much. Maybe it's played out in their eyes. I don't know, but we're going to theme park nonetheless. All the other stuff doesn't matter. We're going to theme park. Who cares about the other bands? We're actually going to get theme park for the first time in like 2 years. And that's poggers.
So as we see these predictions pop up in the screen in just a moment, Connor, with the combination of these two teams, the amount of talent we see on both of them, and the fact that we're going to theme park, is this going to be the match of the day? Did we save the best for last?
I think regardless of map, it was going to be the map of the day. I mean, you got NVK, who everybody's like, oh, he's living in the past. He's like so washed. He's so old. Guess what era this map is from? This is from the old NVK dominance era. He's going to feel right at home. And I think that this is the start of a comeback story for NVK. He's going to put some respect on his name. Everybody's been slandering him. Oh, he lost to a crystal. Oh my gosh. Lay Fraud Watch relegated. No. We're back to Continuum. Evil Genius NVK.
Now, just before we get into it, Cookies, looking at this one shot across the board, is it going to be closer than that, or is it going to be a dominating map by one shot?
You know what? I don't care. Give me Nocturnes. Mermaid, are you listening? Nocturne.
Okay, well, Cookies is going to switch to Nocturnes, and as he switches to Nocturnes, we know now that the players are ready. We want to get into this fifth and final match. Crow, Jays Wills, take us to theme park.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to finally get a new map. But Connor, before we get into the game, you're wrong. By the time theme park was introduced, EG was bad or gone. Either way, you're thinking of Skyscraper, not theme park. But moving on, I always love calling out Connor when he's incorrect. But I don't think we could have picked two better teams to play on this map, Jonah. Because on the one side, we have Kilo, we have Swaylin, we have NVK, we have experience in T2. On the other side, we have Poison and Nyx. Poison, one of the greatest T3 minds that we've seen come out of IGLing, along with people like Mr. B. So I am hyped.
This one should be pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie to you. I am a little bit concerned about One Shot to some degree, just in the hints of gameplay that we've seen from them in community leagues leading up to this. But that was, they were just messing around, trialing things out. They had substitutes, all that kind of stuff. This is their roster, and this is where they're going to get the chance to really debut that. NVK, he could be insane. He could mirror his NAL performance, a complete unknown right now. But like most of these players, NVK is also on a mission, to prove that he has what it takes to go back up there, to head back to the NAL and make a name for himself there. Before we get into more of these team details, though, we got to talk about the bans, mostly because they are nothing really of interest. We've got the Thatcher and the Maverick taken off on the attacking side, which isn't all that unusual, even for a map like Theme Park. And especially for a map like Theme Park, the Mira, how powerful she can be. Not surprising to see those black mirrors or those black eye cameras gone either.
Yeah, and of course, Valkyrie, powerful everywhere. Like you said, this is a good Mira map. Thatcher, Maverick both being banned is definitely an interesting one, considering how important Hard Breach is on a map like Theme Park. Now, the meta may have changed, but this is still the same map, structurally, right? And Hard Breach has always been of the utmost importance, especially on a map like Throne. But we're going to have to wait to see it because somebody's freaking game crashed. and we're gonna have to rehost. So I guess we kind of got a little bit of a taste of the Nocturnes, defense, right? They have a Cade, obviously, because Maverick Thatcher are banned, but I didn't even realize I was talking about the Maverick Thatcher and how important Heartbreach is. Cade is still up. He's gonna be a pain in the ass to try and clear out, especially with how many walls you have to cover in Theme Park, and there's a lot of very tight little corners that you can hide those electricals. So that's gonna be annoying. And there's upstairs presence, because of course there has to be. When it comes to Throne Armory, not only are the hard breach walls, you know, oh so important inside of barrels, inside of main, sometimes even yellow stairs, but getting all that soft breaching done above Armory, forcing all the defenders back to Throne, and then taking advantage of it. So obviously you're gonna have to have a roam upstairs. And those guys, you know, like that Mozzie, like the Malusi, they're gonna be looking to hold up inside of office initiation, etc. for as long as possible.
Well, talking bigger picture again, before we get back into this about the two teams we have in front of us, something that we've got to talk about regarding Nocturnes is the environment that this team has always been able to cultivate for their entire time here in CL. I mean environment, by that I mean just the amount of players that they've been able to put on a pedestal and propel to bigger things. Think about some of the most lethal players we saw in CL last year, right? Freak and Mo are probably two that jump to mind, and Sykes is another one. Marmalade is another one. All of these players, they came from this Nocturne structure, right? They thrived in this Nocturnes environment. That's where Marmalade took up a lot of IGLing roles for the first time, which was really good for her development of the game. That's where Sykes got a big exposure and is likely why he landed his role, you know, in this year. And Freak and Mo immediately go from an amazing lethal duo on the Nocturnes over to another lethal duo over in the Wichita Wolves, now Aerial Arise, where they're going to continue to hopefully build on that. The point is that whatever Dauntless, the coach of Nocturnes, is able to create over there, it's something to watch out for. And I'm not just saying this to gas Dauntless up because he's a great member of the community. I'm saying this because it is actually something that teams have to watch out for, because when Nocturnes are, when they're clicking, when their fraggers are fragging, when they are putting the right players in the right positions, they are a tough team to beat. They've been one of the best teams in CL. They've also had troubling stages in CL as well. I'm curious what we're going to see with this roster, but it looks like a stacked roster. We know how good this environment can be on the Nocturne side, so I really see big things for them this stage, but it's going to start with a tough battle against One Shot.
Yeah, I think Nocturnes have been in playoffs every single stage that they've been a team, if I'm not mistaken. They don't usually make it very far in playoffs, but they get there. So that's, you know, that's commendable in and of itself. But like you said, Nocturnes has this tendency to create star players like that. The only problem is that those star players, except for Lackey and Exod, don't typically stick with the team. So that kind of sucks for Nocturnes. You know, people like freaking Mo, who depart for a better, well, quote-unquote better team, a team that has been doing better. You know, Marmalade departed to take a break and then is now in the NAL, you know. So we'll see if they can turn Poison into a superstar. I mean, they've got Nyx. This is kind of the first time where a super experienced player, you know, an XPL player, has joined the squad. So maybe, you know, Nocturnes, instead of, you know, putting a lot of faith in that new blood like Poison Slothy, they have someone else there actually coming down to give them a lot more solidarity.
Well, we are back into our lobby here after the rehost. Fingers crossed for no more game crashes. Of course, we can expect to not hear the game in a round or two, given that the sound bug has prevailed in most of our matches so far. But at least we can maintain all of our players. And we are back to Throne Room to kick off the Nocturnes defense. We've got the same operators on both sides of things, and as you highlighted, Harrison, the Kaid from Poison, that is going to be such an important component, because like you said, with the Thatcher Maverick ban combination, those Electro Claws are going to be so frustrating to deal with without an easy way of dealing with them. You're going to have to work some vertical play. You're going to have to work those nades if you want to get those, in this case, those exothermic charges from Kilo down on the wall.
Another thing to talk about is the Jackal pick from One Shot. Instead of, you know, a normal primary entry like an Iana, like well, they have the Finka as well. Swaylin is going to be opting for the Jackal because, similarly to Bank, well, Bank is 3 floors and Theme Park is 2. Theme Park is freaking huge.
Massive.
It's an incredibly large. I say thank you, Observer, for highlighting just how incredibly big theme park is. So the Jackal is going to alleviate some of that pressure from droning. It's going to make it a little bit easier to clear roamers, such as Exod, who's currently sitting on the coke stack, just chilling, waiting by the window as the rest of One Shot start to surround the building. There's one, make that two on the cash balcony, one on the roof, opening up that top daycare hatch. In comes an attacker, and they catch Lackey stuck on the bathroom stall. First pick of the game goes to One Shot.
Lackey turned to run away, but he actually got stuck on the door frame as he tried to run back. An unfortunate just maybe over rotation, over flick of the mouse as he turned to run away, but already that is not what Nocturnes wanted to do. Nyx is going to hopefully get something back. He's going to get a C4 lobbed out, but Slippery tacks on beautifully and gets that C4 taken care of with a nice shot. So he will remain unscathed. Nick will use that as a cue to fall back, but Slothy also falling back gets cut down. Nyx tries to trade, but gets slammed by NVK, who has found a nice little double kill to kick off his CL debut. Exod and Poison last alive in a 2 versus 5 situation for Nocturnes, and they're going to be huddled up on the bomb site with their fingers crossed, hoping that they can pull out a little bit of a miracle. I mean, Poison's got a C4, so he could get a nice kill without exposing himself to an angle or something like that, but Exod doesn't have much in the way of any sort of denial other than those nice little goo mines that are sat on the ground here or there, but he's been droned out, and he is in a very tough spot, stuck between both lab and bathroom here, being pinched in by Swalen. Off screen a moment ago, Poison was able to get one kill back, but it's not looking good. There goes Poison as he gets taken down by NVK, and Subarctic in an instant will finish off Lackey as he runs his way through the bathroom, trying to take that gunfight. So a very good start for One Shot.
A 3K for NVK, 2 for Subarctic. Those two members claiming all 5 kills in round number 1. Very well done by One Shot. And the entry game from One Shot, as well as the support that they give their entry fraggers, it has always been a highlight, right? Something that we've always talked about One Shot is their info game tends to be on point, and their trades. Every time they enter the building to flush out a roamer, that guy is going to have support. If you are playing One Shot, 90% of the time, you can bet that if you kill someone, there is going to be someone either right behind them or holding a crossfire. And we saw that exactly in round number 1, right? Nyx was trying to fight the sledge of Slippery inside of control room, whiffing a lot of the shots. Well, not really whiffing a lot of the shots. He didn't have a lot of opportunity to land them. But, you know, Nyx was kind of dancing back and forth, just sending pot shots into control room. And as soon as he tries to rotate out, who's there but NVK to cut him off from outside waiting room from in the cash hallway, as well as another. It was a double kill for NVK, and from that point on, One Shot now focuses their attention. Okay, we know Lesion is separated from his teammate in drug, and the Cade happened to just peek out, split, and give his life away anyway. Well done to One Shot in round number 1. Cool, calm, and collected. Thorough was the name of the game, just like we were saying about who was it? About Gasher's team, about Aqualix on Clubhouse.
Well, One Shot will start this one much like they started the last round, just working their way onto this top floor and making their entry from above. They are going to have to deal with a bit more of an unexpected element, though. Poison is pulling out the Clash here on this top floor hold. Already, we've got somebody, who is that, playing behind close. That is going to be Nyx, just swinging off the back of the Clash, even though nobody from One Shot is really in the building yet to get exposed to that angle. But this is actually a nice little angle he's set up over towards that cache entrance that he'll be looking to get going. He's got a couple of those punch holes to see if he can get something going, but One Shot, they'll be wary of pushing in, especially if a DMR is lighting up the angle that they're looking to walk into. But speaking of, NVK, assisted here by Slippery, they're already working their way in through initiation, maybe looking to make a move early.
Yeah, and the good drone work coming in too, spotting out almost every player on the defense. Slothy's got a nice hole in the soda wall that he can use to support his office players still behind the shield, now sending out gas canisters. Those canisters are pretty early on in the round. Lackey's only got 2 left. ADS is being burned to make way for a nade. The Clash now getting a little aggressive to spot NVK and call that out to his team, as everyone from Nocturnes is forced just a little bit farther west. The time, though, is running low. 1:15 left for One Shot to try and set up this execute. They've still yet to open these hard walls in bunk. Nyx is going to hop down, prep the bottom arcade window for a jump out on a rappel player, I guess. Nice nade will force Lackey off Soda Machine deeper into the objective. One Shot have been very successful in forcing the Nocturnes players back, but have not gotten a kill just yet. And the tighter you group up these defenders, the more stalwart their defense is going to be, because it's going to be way easier for them to play off of each other, especially with this clash still in the mix. Now, I'd mentioned them not hard breaching open any walls yet. Kilo will do just that, opening up Bunk to try and free up that plant spot. More drones coming in to spot out the player Cafe. I guess it's going to be Swalin's job. I literally just noticed that Swalin is on Cali, of all operators, so I guess it'll be his job to win that 1v1. I mean, with no support, never mind, he's got NVK at his side, so two different players attempting to push into Cafe. NVK will go through, and he'll die, trading out with Swalin, getting the headshot on Lackey. C4 to follow up, but Swalin lands it with the SMG. Another kill for Swalin. That's going to be 2 in the round, and the attackers start to barrel their way in. It's not a bunk plant, it's a daycare plant. Nyx will deny it, though. Another from Exod, and there's no time. Swalin has to stick this under the cover from Slippery, but the knife, they actually win it? No, Nocturnes wins it off of time. I saw the kill feed and saw the round win, and I actually thought the attack won it for a sec because the clash died, but it was Nyx coming up from downstairs, landing himself on Arcade, able to thread the needle and kill that plant.
Well, that's one way to win a round if you're Nocturnes there, I suppose. Just, you bleed out the clock, and then you all die, but the time had expired just in the nick of time. I mean, One Shot, they started out that round pretty well. We were highlighting their drone work and, that push that was pretty cohesive, but then, time got away from them a little bit. They knew they had a couple more players to clear out. Nocturnes were doing a nice job of every time they felt that they were being pressured to slowly take another step back, another step back, another step back, so that they were still alive and still a factor for One Shot to worry about, but they weren't putting themselves in too exposed positions. Once they knew, though, that the site control had been secured and they had to step up, they did just enough, and I mean just enough, to force that diffuser, force that planter to get off the diffuse, and ended up time expiring at 000, no time to get the bomb down. So One Shot a little bit too slow, took a little bit too long, I would guess, to deal with just those roamers, or rather those defenders, and just force them off the site and continue to take that control.
There's a big hole in the bunk to daycare wall. It almost looks like a thermite breach. I guess they are using that for ease of access to the angles and rotatability, I guess. Much of this defense extended off the bomb site, which is off as an initiation, back into bunk and the hallway. One Shot, though, seem like they're not going to deal too much with that extension just yet. Looks like most of their men are pushing east to west, so he'll avoid those shields for now, although I believe, those shields are actually facing into the bomb site from outside. If they plant Shrine, they might be safe from those shields, but, that's for later in the round. That's for a later stage. Already, they will make their entry into cash. Nothing really to stop them. NVK posting up top Dragon as well.
Well, you've got Lackey facing an onslaught of utility, at least Twitch drones, in terms of that utility, but I believe the first one did get spotted and shot out. So he's not going to have to worry about that any longer. He's got some impacts, and he's going to use them both in an effort to trick the wall, but it does look like there is at least a little opening established. Not anywhere to actually jump in, but at least an angle to force Lackey to back off, because he can no longer take that fight. Lackey actually takes the fight anyway, steps up and tries to use the ult to the best of his abilities, but he'll end up only lighting up Kilo and getting downed for his troubles. Able to be revived, thankfully, so he'll be back in this action. And Exod will actually pick up a kill here with that 416, taking the head of Subarctic. That's a long angle over from top arcade, is that? A good shot there onto that bathroom door. Slippery does get one back, though, with a nade, so with about 60 seconds left to play. We're still in a similar standoff to where we were in the last round, but One Shot much closer to the execute than they were previously.
There's only one man actually on the site. That's Poison holding a 90-degree angle with that SMG-11. If he gets killed, then Nocturnes could be in dire straits. And just as I say that, Poison takes a lot of damage from NVK. He's been the forward player for One Shot thus far, and it seems like he wants to keep that energy. Slippery may be aware of someone on the hatch. No, he's just going to drop to his death. Swalin gets one refrag. NVK down on the floor as well as Kilo. Swalin now alone in a 1 versus 2 as he finds the head of Slothy. Perhaps able to pick up Kilo, There's 25 seconds left. He's got the necessary time to do it, but he's just going to keep pushing on in. He doesn't know where these last two defenders are. The Jaeger now rotates into bunk, catches the Twitches back, but doesn't actually shoot. That gives Swaylin an opportunity to go for the hunt. Doesn't see the Maestro, pre-fires away the Jaeger, and the Maestro has to try and run away, but there's 8 seconds left. He kills NVK. Now there's info for the attack, and Swaylin wins it with the pistol. One shot. How do they win that? Swaylin is incredible.
Okay, we are 3 rounds in, and we have seen 2 back-to-back ridiculous finishes. Swaylin, are you kidding me? Finishing that one with the pistol, just sprinting through. He's against 81 bullets, and he's got like 2, and he manages to win that fight. That is ridiculous. Another round that really was, for all intents and purposes, a standoff. Neither team able to really take that advantage. One shot not getting as much control as it looks like they're expecting to take. Their utility game just not up to par with what we saw from that first round. Much more like the last round, with that kind of forcing Nocturnes back but not getting those frags. But then you throw it all out the window when you just give away a pistol, and there you have it. The round's over. Very, very well played. In that engagement, I mean, not much you can say other than he's just better with the pistol, I guess, and just won the gunfight. Nothing really that you could say Lackey did wrong there, other than be a little bit slower on the trigger. I mean, the ADS time for the Alda is, slower, so there you have it.
I guess one thing that you could say he did wrong was not just brought downstairs. I don't know why he went into office when the time was that low. He could have just dropped yellow stairs and been done with it. But nevertheless, incredible clutch by Swaylin, who is now off Twitch onto Dokkaebi. Interestingly enough, not an operator that we often see. So it seems like Swaylin has just been playing, the carousel of operators so far. Everyone else on one shot staying rather static, with Kilo just switching on and off different card breachers. We'll see if those Dokkaebi calls come into effect. Nocturnes haven't really been playing too ratty, and One Shot's info has been pretty decent thus far, with the exception of that previous round. It wasn't great, especially with Slippery just kind of dropping the hatch, but with the Mute and the Mozzie and the Vigil coming out now, I guess it does make sense for that Dokkaebi. Droning might be a little bit harder, and provided there's no jammers right next to those defenders, the phone calls could very easily alert the attackers of their location.
We can hear endless pings coming out. I have no idea where they're coming from. Can't hear anything else, of course. No explosions or gunshots. But the pings we can hear. We can identify when the intel game is on point. But it's unclear exactly who is being pinged. Which defender is being spotted out. Or maybe it's an attacker being spotted out by one of those cameras. Doesn't look like anyone is in immediate danger. There's still 90 seconds to go here, and One Shot, it's ample time to work their way into the building. Didn't hear the phone call, but we saw Nyx shut off his phone. So I think, that means that Swaylin is using that utility. That was his actually last of his logic bombs that he can use. So I guess trying to get as much intel as possible before making this clear actually happen. They've cleared out the top floor. You can see that now by the fact that they are beginning this vertical play and trying to track down Lackey, who has a drone at his feet. Now he's the one being pinged. The question is, can this angle be found?
Nocturnes have not given One Shot nearly as many opportunities as they did on the last throne defense. That's why you see One Shot kind of struggling to get these opening picks, but literally as I say that, Swaylin will find it with the SMG-12, a rather unwieldy weapon, but he still lands the head onto Lackey, someone who hasn't been having the best performance so far. 1 in 4 from someone we typically consider a star player for Nocturnes. He has been pretty consistent, so One Shot has been doing an excellent job of shutting him down, but now there's only 30 seconds left, and they have to try and assault Throne with little to, I don't think, any hard breaching done. That is until Kilo attempts to breach the yellow wall very late in the round, but it's eventually done. Now in comes the utility. One Shot need to be wary of the crossfires on the split if Nocturnes are holding them. 8 seconds left. Kilo will get one subarctic, another as Swaylin dies to the C4. NVK on the ground, but still a 3 versus 2 in favor of the attack. Up comes the thermite though, and he'll die dropping diffuser as Nyx rushes in through the smoke, through split, kills the downed player, and wins the round for his team.
Another little little example of attacker smoke working in favor of the defense. Even when the time hit 000s, Nyx is able to just run through the cover of smoke, and all he had to do was deny the plant. I do think that the planter heard that coming, had some sort of call because he hopped up and looked that way, but he was simply out of time and he could not afford to hop off the plant at that point. There was simply not enough time. But we are seeing right in front of us Theme Park as it has always been played. A map that comes down to the absolute last second almost every single round. We have now seen, 3 different rounds that have come down to the last possible moment. It's been a pistol kill. It's been some weird exchange of clash, knife kill, shot in the back, but defense still wins. And then we've got another example of the clock hitting 000, still being a couple of players alive on both teams. A man advantage that certainly was favoring the attackers until those last few moments, but they were still not able to win the round because of lack of time management. Theme Park, it generally comes down to which attacking team can manage the time better, and which defensive team, in the same vein, can exploit the clock better and force the attackers to waste as much time as possible. Right now, seems that Nocturnes are doing a pretty good job of stalling out that clock, because even a team as a cohesive and usually pretty quick attacking team like One Shot can be, how slow they're being forced to take this.
Now, Theme Park has historically been an exceedingly defender-sided map, so it's not strange that One Shot are tied 2-2. In fact, them just having 2 rounds already is probably what they were looking for. They don't care that they're tied 2-2. They have secured the 2-4 half at minimum. If they even win one more round, they've effectively won the half on their Theme Park attack. And by the way, we do have some more results from the off-stream games. It was West Garfield Park versus Aerial Arise on Bank. Aerial Arise ended up winning 7-3. Who'd have thought?
Okay. Not too much of a shocker, given that Aerial Arise are one of these teams that we have got our eyes on for the top spot, but good to see them back in the action here, much like we are now back here in round 5 with One Shot once again trying to utilize the Cali as best they can. This is their way of getting around the lack of, that Thatcher or the Maverick would still dealing with those Electro Claws, hoping that those javelins from the Cali can take care of that utility with the burst that they put on the other side of the wall. Back and forth gunfight here between Kilo and Nyx, neither player coming out on top, just at least for now. In this minute 20 that they've got remaining, though, One Shot need to stop just taking these long gunfights, and they will have to start progressing. They've got the initiation wall open. They can push it at any moment. They've got players, or rather the office wall open. They've got players in initiation, and they're working their way up to that wall, but that's still electrified. Something they're going to need to get done very soon. Soylent still has one of those javelins, but this is a problem with Electro Claws. They are not easy to get, even with the Cali. It's going to miss, and that wall's going to remain hard unless those 3 nades that still remain in pocket could find that claw from the other side.
And will actually be impossible, Jonah, as it's placed down below in Throne. So there's no way the attackers are going to be able to get this. Swaylin opting to simply send it up yellow instead. SMG in hand, now switching to the Cali rifle to hold the very long angle down the hallway into Bunk. In comes a Finka boost. That'll probably make way for this push as Kilo eats a lot of damage, but here comes Swaylin. Beautiful shot onto Exod. Nyx will refrag, as does Slothy. Man advantage in the favor of this defense. Nyx another one onto Swaylin, and they know about the position of this sledge. Poison Slothy's gonna win that fight, and now it's just NVK 1 versus 4. He can't make it happen, and Nocturnes take round number 5.
Sometimes it comes down to just utility being impossible to clear. And even though it did come down to the gunfights in the end, the reason One Shot were forced to reposition and take those gunfights was a really good application of utility from Nocturnes. Just well-placed Electro Claws. That was half the battle. That was maybe more than half the battle, because as much progress as One Shot were able to make, it's impossible to get an execute going, especially over on that initiation side, if you can't open the damn wall. That's the problem they had here, and it's simply because the bans are favoring that defensive side more heavily than they might have if the Kaid was banned and maybe the Valkyrie or the Mira was left up. That's why I think what you said earlier, Harrison, that One Shot and getting these attacking victories is absolutely true. More than ever, 2 rounds on the attacking side here, I think is a job well done. We're going to see a very defensive-sided theme park if Nocturnes, and when One Shot go on their defensive side, if they can exploit the hard breach problem that the attackers are having as much as possible.
I'd imagine they would, and in fact, Jonah, we just want to move away from this game once again for a quick second. The last off-stream game is completed as well. LSR versus Karn & Co. LSR took the win 7-4 on Chalet. So LSR, despite not being streamed today, which I am very sad about. I really wanted to cast them today, but we're going to have to wait for our opportunity there, Jonah. They will start off with 2 wins.
Very nice.
Both in regulation. So, incredible start for LSR to the season. But back to this game. Swaylin is back on the Twitch. Back on his hero operator. We'll see if they need him to pull out the Herculean effort once again as they must attack onto Office. The same site that he had 1v3'd on. And again, this clash has been impossible for One Shot to clear, let alone the hard breach. This clash has been difficult.
Yeah, Poison has done a great job of surviving until, I think, the end of every single round so far, providing a lot of intel, just another barrier that One Shot and these attacking teams have to clear. I mean, you already think of all the walls you've got to open, all the hard destruction you've got to do. It doesn't help when you have another almost brick wall staring you in the face, but a brick wall that can move, that can shock you, that has a threat of killing you, and that can provide a lot of intel at the same time. When you think about it, Clash is a pretty good operator when you use her properly, when you put her in the right spot, when you allow her, make sure she doesn't get in any weird crossfires. She can be a real pain for the attackers to clear, and I think One Shot are experiencing that very much so, as Poison continues to reposition, relocate over in Office. Subarctic really wants to get this nade on the mark, but a deployable shield should protect Poison, and of course, the shield that Poison is holding in front of his face. But he'll continue to back off, hoping that he's near enough to one of his teammates that maybe they could pop up behind him and provide that support. Again, all he's got to do is be careful that he doesn't get himself trapped, naded, or stuck in a crossfire, and he should be fine. But here's the danger. The plant's going down already.
Yeah, because of all the off-site presence from Nocturnes, no one can deny the plant. Slip gets the opening kill on the Lackey. We're in a post-plant. Kills all going One Shot's way, and now Slothy is left to pick up the pieces. 1 versus 4, an incredible execute from One Shot, forcing the clash back to the other side of the building. Nobody from Nocturnes left to calm the storm, and thus One Shot barrel their way in. Beautiful shot from Slothy onto the head of Subarctic, but sadly it might not be enough. He get another one on Swaylin, but there's an instant refrag from Kilo playing close in Bathroom, and One Shot will end up tying the half. 3-3. I'm sure they're very happy about a result like that on Theme Park.
Yeah, definitely enjoying their spoils on the attacking side to start off the map, and now they get to go on the defensive side and be a little bit more comfortable. But just for one more second here, to talk about that attack and how successful it was, I mean, we were focused on the clash, and for good reason, because One Shot were tunnel visioned on the clash as well, because they knew that all they needed to do was force the clash back. Just force her out of the line of sight, make sure Poison could not see the plant going down, or shock that player to stop it. And once they did, like you said, Harrison, because there was a lack of on-site pressure from Nocturnes, that bomb could go down. I mean, and that's the experience, and that is the composure of this team talking, that when One Shot see that there's an opportunity to get a plant down, they are not going to wait until the last possible second to do it. They found an opening. They did the work they had to do to establish that opening, and there you have it. Bomb goes down, round goes their way. Nocturnes, they've got to employ that as much as they can, because I have a feeling they're going to struggle with time as much, if not a little bit more than One Shot did, at least in these first few attacks. So they've got to employ that mentality if they can, now that we've shifted sides.
Interesting repick from Nocturnes as well. So not only do they have Iana as their main entry rather than the Zofia, they've swapped onto Lion. I guess seeing the One Shot defending lineup, knowing that this is a very fluid defense, especially on this site, Lab really thrives off of, again, your off-site hold, like most of Theme Park does, and your ability to rotate around the site. That line is going to restrict a lot of that, and NVK, slightly late on the setup, isn't going to be able to get that Banshee down next to the doorway with the barricade popping up right next to him. Probably scared the pants off him. He's going to have to back off and place that outside cafe. So not too much of a scuffle. No real engagement coming out of it. Lackey's the man left holding onto the outside of Cafe by the window, so we might see an engagement here, but it's just a nade to sail in and not claim anyone. Nocturnes are going to have to force off this top floor roam unless they don't. Setting up outside of bathroom, they could just rush. There's the Gone 6. In comes the Finka. It looks like the mute is ready, but no, Swaylin gets completely destroyed. Now site control fully in the hands of the attackers. Poison on Twitch, curiously enough, is going to get this plant down. Sub gets caught in the rotate. Lackey, another one. And Slip and Kilo are left to try and retake 2 versus 5 post plant. Left upstairs and way off the site with no real recourse. What a wonderful adaptation from Nocturnes. Either Poison or Nyx, whoever called that one, incredibly brilliant. Knowing that nobody from One Shot was on the site with the exception of Swaylin, they barrel in, completely overwhelm the smoke, and no one else on the defense can do anything. The pre-fire misses, Slip goes down off screen, and Nocturnes take round 7 flawlessly.
This is the danger of going to lab. I mean, I feel like every time you see lab, that is exactly the attacking style that teams will employ. And I'm a little surprised to see One Shot not prepared for that at all. It looked like there may have been the mute paying attention. I think it was Kilo who was looking the right way, but then all of a sudden, just absolutely caught off guard.
It was Swaylin on
okay,
smoke.
Swaylin on smoke.
I saw a shotgun.
Somebody was on the site, right? And they just had no idea what was coming. And maybe it's just because Theme Park hasn't been played in a while, but if you think back to whenever a year and a half ago that we had this map in the pool, when lab is picked, there's going to be a rush. I'd say 50% of the time there's going to be a rush because teams do not want to clear out the top floor. They don't want to clear out this entire map that is already a pain just to clear a couple of rooms of. No, they wanted to go direct, and that was a very good call. I know Nyx and Poison have been sharing the majority of the IGL calling. Whoever made that call there, maybe it was a combination of them. Huge brain. Really good stuff. Lackey, his positioning in lab itself, holding the cutoff on the double door, taking that space so quickly was also very important because nobody could even rotate in lab to stop the plant from going down in supply. They had someone in bathroom, several players in supply, somebody outside, someone in lab. They had it all covered, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it seemed like they had really accounted for everything. That wasn't just a good in-the-moment call. That was a practiced rush. Nocturnes obviously have planned that out, and it really showed. And One Shot are struggling, something that I didn't expect. Every single player on the board negative with the exception of Swaylin, who was the entry pick in the previous round and playing smoke. Now after that rush, One Shot are going to say, all right, we don't mess with lab anymore. We are going to go to a much more standard bomb site. We're going to go back to bunk, but still not going to work out for the opening pick. It'll be Slothy to lead things off onto sub-Arctic.
And Nocturne starting good once again, and I mean, defying my expectations, I'm sure yours a little bit as well, given their attacking prowess to kick off this defender-favored map. This is a good sign for them. There's no question about that. They will now have to deal with still a lot of this intel that One Shot have at their fingertips, namely because you've got Slippery and the presence of those yokai drones, which can, again, be pretty much anywhere on the map at any given moment. But in the same way, Nocturnes are hoping to not necessarily gain intel, but at least choke these defenders out, force them into corners, and then, I guess by extension, know exactly where they are. That's going to be Exod's role with those gridlock track stingers, locking those defenders in a position, preventing those flanks, doing what she does best. And of course, that LMG and 2 smokes, all that burn, certainly doesn't hurt either. So a good start for them, and they'll be looking to continue that as they try to clear their way up towards office. They are sneaking Nyx around the other side at the same time, though.
He did hit the barbed wire, so his position is known to the defense. You can see people turning their guns, so unfortunately the Nook will not stay hidden. But up he comes, looking to tag team with the Finka. In fact, getting a kill of his own onto Swaylin, shutting down the smoke, and now going on the chase. Kilo trying to run away. NVK will actually re-engage, take the head off one, but in comes the refrag. Poison all the way through the site. Doesn't stop at daycare. He goes through. 2 kills for him. Iana now watching the staircase, won't get the kill. Exod will. Nocturnes barrel their way on through off the back of that Nook and take round number 8.
I mean, the coordination from Nocturnes on the attack, I mean, it's rivaling that of One Shots, if not surpassing it a little bit there. They made the bold choice. I mean, they consciously played for frags. You could see it because they pushed through the site Daycare was the site. They pushed through and took the gunfights, played the trades, and swung on every one of those defenders that they had forced back to top arcade. They had forced them back through to cafe, through back to top arcade, back towards the main stairs. And they knew, because they had them trapped, that they could take those gunfights. If they lost a body, that's fine. You've got someone right behind to play for that trade. Nice job from them, and that's enough to propel One Shot into a bit of an uncomfortable spot here, because Nocturnes have now amassed a 2-round lead on their attacking side after that 3-3 split on the first half. So One Shot will take a timeout and try to figure whatever they can do to bring this one back.
Hopefully this timeout will amend some of these issues. It looks like they want to go bunk once again, only this time Slippery will be playing Echo. So, a little more info, a little more plant denial on the side of this defense. No Nook from Nocturnes, at least not yet. If they end up swapping to it, that could be detrimental to One Shot if they're relying too much, if they're leaning too much into this info. The Nook can, always slip right past that. The Gridlock is also an interesting choice. I'm not sure why. Because Nomad was a pretty common operator on Theme Park. We even saw Zero played a couple times as well, just because he has more cams and there's just so much area you need to cover. Gridlock, I feel like, is maybe a little more static, less dynamic than people like the Nomad and the Zero. But maybe Exod just wants the smokes and the LMG.
Well, you gotta remember that and again, we're talking about Gridlock now that she's being, 6 picked off, or rather attacker re-picked off to the Ying, but she also has a ton of burn. If you think about it, those track stingers, they burn ADSs, Aruni Gates with my magnets. You've got 2 smokes as well. That is a lot of burn, and you've got that LMG, which is something that Nomad does not have. So if you want to have a little bit of that flank denial, a lot of burn, and a great weapon, then the Gridlock can kind of fill in that gap. But yeah, it's always, a user choice at some point. But we do have.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, yeah, you're right. It literally doesn't matter, because we've got Exod, as I was about to say, picking up the Ying, throwing away the Gridlock. So we saw her once. We're not going to see her again. Instead, we've got the Candelas in Exod's hands. We've got the smokes that she also brings. And so with the combination of the 6 grenades that we've got on the side of Nocturnes as well, we could see a very explosive round.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this Ying goes. I don't remember a whole lot of Ying play on this map, or if I do, I can't remember where you put it on this site. Maybe in through like break room-ish or through the hatch, where it looks like Exod is setting up right now, cooking that Candela. There's a couple people, actually 3 people waiting for him though, right under. Maybe he can go 1 for 1. With the Candelas forcing people off, the drone will come in, giving this Ying info, but he's still chilling. He's still waiting for the call from his team. I wonder what he's waiting on. The rest of the team is pushing towards the cafe side of things, though. In comes the Ioniclone. It will be instantly shot. And no Candelas just yet. Exod is now the next to start droning, placing his drone on the hatch. He really wants to make sure that when he Candelas in, he knows exactly what's going to be going on right underneath him. As Nyx now jumps into barrels, he'll nade through. Slothy taking a little damage, as is Lackey quickly healed up. Shotgun will put an end to the life of Nightmare Nyx. Gas canisters coming out to stall out the cafe push as well. Slippery a kill. Swaylin just peeks on up, drops Case. Lackey's the next to fall, and whatever the hell Nocturnes tried to go for, it very clearly did not work.
Yeah, that wasn't it. Now Poison's a 1v5, and this feels more like a tactical timeout kind of situation. You can use the last minute to regroup and figure something out. But Nocturnes, clearly they've got a couple of, pretty strong, in some cases, rush strats and executes that they're trying to employ. They tried to bring another strat like that out here, but it worked on Lab down below, but it did not work on this second iteration of Daycare whatsoever. Everyone else on One Shot just sitting back. They know they have pretty much secured this round, but Poison, maybe he'll give it an effort. He'll drop down, looking towards top arcade. There is somebody swinging him from that position. Free Fire finds nothing, though, and Swaylin will dip away. A long angle being held all the way from Office, I believe that is going to also freeze Poison in place. And he's actually going to get the trade there, taking down NVK before he gets taken down himself.
Yeah, I mean, that whole round was a bit of a mess from Nocturnes. Again, we have no game sound, unfortunately, because of the observer bug. So, not on us. But, yeah, we didn't really know where those Candelas went. And if they ended up going down the hatch, well, Nocturnes tried to barrel themselves down the hatch, up arcade stairs, in through cafe, and One Shot were ready to meet them every single time. And that was kind of it. That was the story of that round. Candela's pretty ineffective. But we go back to Drug,
Attackers have located a bomb.
where Nocturnes had an abundantly successful rush. I mean, it wasn't even close. And now, in an effort to try and stop that, One Shot are not only bringing the castle, but also the Melusi, and they even have Frostmans. So if Nocturnes decide to get cheeky again and rush through those windows, they will be met with broken ankles.
Well, One Shot after one successful round, they'll be looking to replicate that.
10 seconds.
I mean, they're headed back to lab here, which is a bit of a surprise. Still avoiding throne room entirely. We haven't seen that from them yet. I don't mind them avoiding initiation in office. It's always struck me as a little bit of a weaker bomb site, but in this meta right now, I mean, who really knows what's going on? But you got to be wary of Nocturnes and the potential for another rush. Maybe not right at the beginning of the round, but this is a site that you rarely actually play on the site itself as a defender, and One Shot need to figure out some way to have better coverage of this, better intel somehow. I mean, you don't have that echo or anything of the sort. You do have an ABP in the hands of Slippery, which he's already put down, and you've got those Frost Match, which could assist you in case of a direct rush attempt or something like that. But despite all that, it does look like Nocturnes are going for a bit more of a clear. NVK positioned in barrels now in Nyx's line of sight, but NVK takes the wide swing, and he'll win it outright.
So it looks like NVK will win this battle of the X-Pros and put an end to the sledge very early on. And on a site like Drug Lab, if you're taking it standard top-down, then that sledge is oh so important. Nearly the entirety of the site from above is destructible, and they no longer have that hammer. In fact, they don't have breaching charges in general, so they will likely be starved of verticality. The throne wall will be opened from maintenance, but no one from the defense is actually playing in throne, so it might not matter all that much. The Iana is still, despite it not being a rush, setting up outside that bathroom window. Melusi Banshee going to be cleared as well, and it seems as if Nocturnes are just going to completely ignore the top floor presence from the defense, which they are going to pay the price for most likely, unless the frost is too late. Nope, never mind. Lackey will get shut down. Slippery on for 2, and Slothy is alone. One Shot have accurately adapted to Nocturne's shenanigans, and it seems to be 2 in a row and a tie game for both these teams.
Yeah, and beautiful change, knowing how Nocturnes like to play, right? We saw multiple rounds where Nocturnes brought out that aggression. One of those attacking wins was simply just clean. I mean, it was just a textbook attack. There was nothing aggressive or ridiculous about it. It was a methodical clear, but on 2 other instances, that first lab attack and then again...
Was that round
dropping the
before
hatch and going
Flawless
for
as
that
well?
all-out daycare play.
Wow.
We did not see that work so well, and like we said, One Shot need to be prepared for that, and they were. Nocturnes didn't even employ that kind of strategy right off the bat. They did try for something a little bit more methodical and a little bit more disciplined to start, but when they lost Nyx and they lost the sledge, they had to pivot. They really did. I mean, you had really nothing in the way of soft destruction anymore, at least not enough sufficient soft destruction to go for that top-down play. And so, again, you just go direct, you try to get aggressive, but One Shot were ready.
There seems to be some confusion about a rehost in the chat.
Yeah, we're looking at a timeout screen right now, so...
Yeah. We're looking at a timeout screen, but the round is still going on. Might have been maybe some kind of miscommunication there. I'm not quite sure what just happened. If maybe the rehost or maybe the timeout was called a little too late. Either way, you're looking at us. Hi. The round for now is still going on. Observer just called to play out the round. So, as we can do our best to try and radio.
Nah, we're
this.
going
No, we're
back in, baby. Let's go.
All right.
Not exactly sure what happened there. I'm sure we'll get some clarity at some point. But either way, both teams good to play on. I thought we were seeing a Nocturnes timeout there for a second, which would have made some sense, all things considered, given that their plans have not worked out so well in the last 2 rounds, and One Shot are now back even and in the 5 versus 5-5 scoreline here. But we are back with another Nocturnes attack here. They're going to be looking to pressure this top floor once again. NVK, who's been heating up a little bit, is the first player in their line of sight, the first player really to contest this attack as it works their way in. But NVK, he's going to start to back off a little bit. Doesn't want to challenge that window too aggressively. He'll drop down and slink away towards barrels.
I just realized NVK's running the old EG MP5. How nice. Speaking of Jackal, we saw it from Swaylin. Now we'll see it from Lackey. He will spot out one player, but that player is very far away, down on the site, if I'm not mistaken. Not NVK, the player that the attackers probably want to get Jackal pinged, because he's roaming around downstairs, currently undeterred in his roam, looking to perhaps come up the arcade stairs. He's just kind of chilling by the drug window right now. Subarctic also downstairs, kind of by, is that in? Oh no, that's in sight. I thought that was out of sight. I underestimated the length of that room. So only one person off site. But, ooh, judging by the attack, they might be aware of this. Sothy comes in to try and hunt down NVK. Lucy has her back turned. It's going to impact the wall for a distraction, take the heads-up engagement, but not spot the Finka behind the table. Now down to low HP, Lackey comes in for the finisher, and the first pick comes very late in the round, but still goes Nocturne's way.
Yeah, with 30 seconds left, they finally find the scoreboard, but there is still a lot of work to get done here. Yes, they've got the man advantage, but now they've got to do something with it. They're going to try to send some utility in, but here comes a wide swing.
Heck?
Actually, Kilo ends up paying the price, but Subarctic and Swaylin answer back in a big way. Subarctic tries to get another, but Poison somehow escapes with his life. Now tries to get the bomb down, and Slippery has to try to deny this. He's got a C4. He's not going to use it, though, and instead tries to creep up the long hall. Now he is in grave danger. Slothy will take the fight and win it, proving key in that round as he hunted down those roamers, pushed into the site, and had some pretty good coverage of that planter. So Nocturnes, another attack after not a timeout, but just a moment to regroup, I suppose. They will move ahead and be the first team to have their eyes on match point.
That was a bit of an odd one. I really expected One Shot to come away with the round, and yet they kind of threw bodies at the problem. Right? Kilo swung into smoke and got shot at by 2 people instead of playing passive and just holding on to split. Who was that? The Wamai, I think, Swaylin was still hanging out outside of Dragon rather than in the site to try and cut off attackers and just got flanked by Nyx. One Shot were caught out of position in a lot of those rounds. And that puts Nocturne on match point. Something that, you know, the entire production crew had voted for One Shot. So I safely say that this is not something that a lot of us had expected.
Yeah, this is a very strong Nocturnes team right now. They're looking good. It's not to say that One Shot are looking particularly weak. I mean, we have seen them stronger. It really feels like they aren't at full capacity like they've played in the past, but they're playing their game, and at least on the attacking side, it really felt like they did have it under control. And they've had 2 defensive rounds, but Nocturnes, this is a newfound, really precision, it feels like we're seeing from them. I feel like that's a good word to characterize this, and I'm sure it has something to do with the presence of Nyx on this roster. From what we've heard, he has really shaped this roster in a positive way. Like a sense of discipline and that experience, of course, but really just that focus, that, you know, mentality that he's imparting to the rest of this team. And based on what we're seeing from now, how prepared they seem to be for Theme Park, so far it's looking pretty good. They're on match point and they have a chance to close this one out in regulation. They would love to walk out of this very high level matchup with the full 3 points that you earn from a regulation win, rather than that 2 points or even that 1 point from an overtime win or overtime loss. So at this point, they've guaranteed a point, but they would like to maximize that if they can, as long as all they got to do is just get one more of these attacks put together.
Yeah, and that would certainly be an upset for Nocturnes if they pull one over one shot. So we'll see how this round goes. It's going to be bunk for one shot, of course, extended all the way back into office and initiation as well. That's typically how these top floor sites go. Wherever the site is, you extend into the opposite. Now, Nocturnes did it maybe a little bit too much on their last office defense. Hopefully one shot do not fall to the same mistake as Nocturnes already begin to clear over on the control side of things. Slothy quickly jumps through the window. No targets for him to find just yet. As I say that, NVK swings into waiting. I thought that the defense was going to hang back a little bit, but the Wamai decides to expose his head and suffer the opening death. Subarctic makes a curious rotate out, turns his back and hops through, and on what could be the final round, one shot are down 2 men. Make that 3.
Oh my, that's a 3rd now for Slothy. That's a 4th for Slothy. A quad kill for him, and Swaylin is now last alive. Slothy wants the ace. He sees it right in front of him, but he just cannot get it done. Swaylin escapes, securing his own double kill. But Nocturnes are now going to take a step back, regroup, because they're in a 3v1, and they are on the precipice of a victory here. Swaylin with 14 kills needs to add 3 more to his tally if he wants to win this one, hoping that a smoke grenade can help him in that endeavor as he tries to escape the corner. He got pinned in a moment ago, and he's done that. He's now moved back into daycare, moved back into the objective. With no smokes remaining, though, he's going to have to do this one the old-fashioned way. You've got Poison working his way in towards the breach. He'll spot out Swaylin, but cannot connect the shots. Swaylin now has some pings of his own to work off of. He knows the push is coming in and hits a beautiful shot. Now whips out the shotgun and turns towards the break room window. That's where Nyx is playing. Looking to get something going. Really just looking to hold off this cross angle. But the planter's exposed to him. Poison's got to get off, but Swaylin may have just cost him that by not finding the headshot. Poison now will push up. Looks like Nyx wants to swing in. They'll go for the double swing. They'll take the fight, and it will work. Taking round 12, taking down one shot in their opening game, 7-5. That is a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, taking down T2 Titans. Really, not only were one shot incredibly strong in stage 3, they also made it to invite calls. They beat Mirage. They beat a Pro League. And they have been, I mean, turning up in the T3 events as well. But today, a newly, seemingly rejuvenated Nocturnes are able to take the win. I mean, on a map like Theme Park, against a team like One Shot, who are typically very strategic, very slow, methodical, you know, get their entry frags, always backing each other up. Something wasn't clicking today. And I got a feel for Swaylin in that final round. I don't know if it was the nerves getting to him or what, but landing 3 kills like that and then whiffing on the stationary planter. He kills Poison there. Nyx is stuck on the rappel. That's a 1v3 ace clutch for Swaylin to bring us to OT, but SMG11 just got away from him that little bit and ended up losing him the round.
What was the word you just used to describe them? Earlier, I used the word precise. What was the word you just used? Rejuvenated, I think it was. I think that's a great characterization of this roster because Nocturnes, like we've talked about coming into this game, they're a team that has looked really good at times last year, and they've also had their slips. They've also looked not so good in moments. But yeah, this team looks good right now. They really put together a good theme park, and you know, maybe it's just theme park. Maybe One Shot are weak here, but that is a great statement to make right off the bat, kicking off CL. Taking down one of these opponents that are probably predicted, at least coming in, to be one of those, you know, top 4 finishers at the very least. So great way to start. Good to see Nyx thriving in this roster. Poison as well, doing great work on this team. But of course, to wrap up the day, we're going to throw it back to our analyst desk, to our wonderful host, our wonderful analyst one more time. Crow and I will be back next week because tomorrow we've got Carter and Fellow coming in and giving you some great casting. So for the final time, boys on the desk, take it away.
But I don't want to wrap up the day. That was a fun game. I wanted that game to keep going. That was so good. Cookies, I gotta hand it to you. You had the secret sauce. You knew what was up.
Listen, no, I don't play with my prediction though. I don't just switch teams like that. But for some reason, I don't know. I just looked into the heart and soul of Nocturnes, and I felt like they had what it took. So Crow was saying, I know he can't like actually respond to me at this juncture, but Crow did say one shot did whatever an invite. Well, this is a different one shot now. Unfortunately, a lot of the highlights were coming just out of Swaylin, which we all know how good Swaylin is. We've talked it to death at this point. He's doing it on Twitch, on Cali, on Smoke. Problem is, there really wasn't much else going for one shot consistently. And on Nocturne side of things, well, Connor, you have
I was wrong.
Called
I was
Slothy a
wrong.
fraud.
I was wrong. I was not sold on Slothy either, and he played phenomenally.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to pay for some Nyx lessons myself to get my brain elevated up to another level, or maybe buy a Nocturnes jersey or something. But I was wrong, and I'll be a man. I'll own up to my mistake. Nocturnes played incredibly well, and one shot. Harrison was talking about it. There was just some little inconsistencies, a lot of separation. It seems like with their roster moves, they're not fully meshed yet. The trade game, it wasn't as on point as we've seen with past iterations of the roster. And Nocturnes looked clean, squeaky clean, played a phenomenal game. Not that many mistakes. And a lot of clutch moments from Nyx, where he won 2 rounds purely off of time.
Well, I mean, as these stats pop up, it's hard. We were looking at the stats on the side of one-shot cookies and just thinking to ourselves, they could have done like all of these guys are so much better than that. It was really jarring to see these stats.
I know everyone wants to talk about it, you know, but NBK had a really good start to the game and it kind of tapered off.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say one thing we kind of glossed over, the Clash.
Yeah.
Definitely neutralized a lot of that playmaking ability that one shots does. And let's be real, they're a team that likes to flood stuff, get jiggy with it. You can't do that against Clash. It's infinitely difficult. And again, outside of those clutches, Swaylin actually saved their attack half. It was rough. They actually struggled with that a lot. And then Nocturnes, with the exception of those sloppy attacks towards the end of the game, hey, they pulled through and they, for the most part, shut down the playmakers on one shot.
Well, right now we have Nyx ready. We're going to talk to him about the game, talk to him about Nocturnes. This is, as we said, a team that's seen a lot of different iterations over the past year or so. Nyx, congratulations on the win. That was, from a viewer standpoint, that was a phenomenal game. What was it like being in the match itself?
Oh, that game was definitely definitely intense. Kind of how our other game was earlier today too. Both 7-5 games. Unfortunately, the other one was a 5-7 the other way. But yeah, that game was crazy. After we won that 1v2 in the enemy and poison, I just got up and threw my headset off because I thought we were about to throw that 1v4.
Now, when you're in the position, you guys are up 5-3, and then all of a sudden, one shot comes back with back-to-back flawless rounds on defense. I know it's just tied up, but with these and throughout the rest of the match, there were constant momentum swings. How do you deal with that as a player?
You just gotta stay mentally stable and make sure that you're talking to your team to always be resetting and keeping the energy always constant. When we were up at 5-3, it's one of the main things I was talking about with the team. Just making sure our energy is not fluctuating and making sure that we're staying steady and consistent. I think we just made some bad attack calls, and that kind of falls on me and Poison and when we had the advantage. But we ended up closing it out, so that's all that really matters.
Now, obviously, you made pretty good work of the majority of the team. Swaylin himself, he was doing pretty good on the other side. When you're in that final round and you know that their one guy left is Swaylin, does that make a difference to your decision making? Like, oh, it's not just one of the guys we've dealt with. This is the guy that's kind of causing us some trouble.
No, not really. We Slothy was having kind of a heater of a round. He kind of just walked in and killed 4 players. And after we were in the 4v1, I was just kind of calling to the team just to make sure, guys, everyone reset. We're going to close this game out. Just make sure we're trading and stacking as a teammate. I think Slothy kind of got a little ahead of the curve there. He was like, I'm going for the ace. I'm feeling it. I'm going for it. And then kind of snowballed some things. But we tightened it back up and ended up closing it out. So that's all that matters.
One of the storylines for us on the desk, and I'm sure the fans going into this match, is the Battle of the Pros, Nyx taking on NVK. Is that something that sits in the back of your minds, or do you just treat it like any other match?
Definitely didn't really think about it in terms of NVK playing in the game with, Battle of the Pros or anything like that. Just for me personally, I've just been kind of, trying to, I don't know, remodel myself as a player, remold myself as a player, just because, I have been playing for Big Pro League ever since I turned 18, and this is actually my very, very, very first season in Challenger League. So I'm really happy to be on the team that I am on. Like
Yeah.
super, super talented players, like very just young, mechanically gifted players, Slothy especially. So I just think with some more practice and some more time under our belts, I think we're going to be a real contender. I think people are underestimating us for sure going into the season.
I think it also goes to show just how much talent is spread even through CL now, that
Right.
we've got top of the line players in both tier 1 and tier 2 battling
Right.
it out. Thank you so much for your time, Nix. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be talking again in the coming weeks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time as well.
Have a good one. I feel like he's done an interview or two in his time. He was quite well versed, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Cookies? He seemed to know what he was talking about when it came to Rainbow Six Siege.
Yes, indeed. He seemed very composed as well. You know, the funny thing is, with the exception, what did he say? I took my headset off and threw it or something?
Yeah.
Yo. But anyway, you know, it was like, for the most part, team did look composed, much more composed. One of the problems for Nocturnes, we talked about it earlier. IGLing in the past, it didn't miss. Definitely wasn't the case today. I think there was like, what, 1 or 2 rounds where it seemed like the attacking calls were weird. It kind of got flawless a little bit towards the end of regulation. But otherwise, I mean, Slothy got enabled today, that's for sure. And if you're Sykes, you know, the guy left this, he's punching the air right now because this team looks well oiled.
We've seen a lot of iterations over the last year of Nocturnes, and this one's no different, except for the fact that this might be the biggest improvement they've made so far. It's early stage.